I would like to welcome all the attendees to Roberto Cason's presentation today. This is session 2AJ, and Roberto is one of the software consultants at BMC Software who are sponsoring today this particular session. Please don't forget to add your comments to the feedback form for session 2AJ. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat and I will collate them for Roberto at the end of the session. And please don't forget to generously give to GSE's charities, which are lifeboats and guide dogs for the blind. It gives me great pleasure to hand over to Roberto.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. So good afternoon, everyone. So today we're going to talk to you. This is the agenda about Db2 profile and how you can implement them using Db2 profile tables. I think that everyone already know them, but seems what I have seen in the past that they are not very much used. Perhaps it was not well understood how to use them. I don't know. But in any case, with this presentation, I'm hoping to help you on their utilization. So this is the agenda. We will go through the reason by which they can be helpful for us, how can be configured and implemented. And then I'll share with some real example at the end, how and when to use them in particular. Try to covering every single capabilities. So we will go through a first introduction first. So in the last years, with the mainframe, I can see that is living a new era of transactions. In the past, let me open the laser pen. All right. In the past, as you can see here, we had more kicks transaction than today, for sure. And the related volume was more predictable than today, where web applications and web transaction and today are growing very fast, and we have a lot of peaks during the day, for example. The consequence of that is that today the transaction volume may be unpredictable, and this makes monitoring and tuning of Db2 just a little bit difficult. And one of the most critical Db2 component today to monitor is for sure the DRDA. Today is very important to prevent problems in the DRDA in this area. Guarantee always the control on this component, because a connection outage may impact seriously the service level agreement SLA. And Db2 profiles can help on that, as they can monitor threads and connections at the application level. So we can use Db2 profile to give an help on this monitoring to guarantee enough stability to our DRDA. So we guarantee service level agreement for our core business application, but we don't have only core business applications that are connecting to Db2. For example, typical core business application for a bank, for example, our home banking, financial application, and so on. We also have a wide variety of different applications, not core business, but the same way they need remote connection as well. Connection coming from inquiry tools, development tools, content management database. We have data replication processes that want to connect to Db2 as well. Connection from ATL or CRM application. So a lot of different applications wants to connect to Db2. But as you know, we have a unique ZPARM settings. So we can have only a possible setting of ZPARM for different kind of application. So Db2 profile can help on that, because we can specialize some specific zparm parameter for specific application. So from for eccentric logic, we can move to a more distributed logic. So we can customize a portion of zparm, and we can set now application according to their different needs. And then at the same time, we can guarantee the stability of our service level agreement for our cost business application. But so using profile table, yes, but let me tell you what is it a Db2 profile in particular. What is the meaning of profile? So with the profile table, we can ask to Db2 to perform certain actions for a specific workload, filtered by the profile. So we will go in deep in the next slide, and we will see together how to specify our workload and how to apply our Db2 profiles on specific workload. Profile table came up in Db2 version 10 with several capabilities. The capabilities listed on the bottom left. And then in version 11 came out, for example, the set values of special register feature. And then in version 12, more attributes to better manage, for example, idle threads and the set of built-in global variable functions. And seems that IBM is still continuing to develop and invest on this feature for the future. So we will see new investment on profile table for sure. Mainly profile tables are two. So we have a profile table, and then we have a profile attribute table. For every one of these two tables, we have a history table associated. And the history table maintains the history of our Db2 profile. So if you remove a profile, it will continue to exist in the history table for diagnostic purposes, for example. A profile, when a profile is turned on, is activated, and someone, for example, delete a profile from the profile table, it is maintained in the history. So don't manually insert data into these tables. They are populated automatically at the start profile command. So, and then use care to delete rows from those tables. Delete rows only when they are no longer needed for table maintenance, for example. This is a slide just to show you the structure of the Db2 profile table. So we have the profile table on the left with all the columns, and on the right, the profile attribute. The two tables are in relationship. The foreign key is the profile ID column. And sorry, if you need DDL, the DDL are stored in this SDSNSM dataset, and in particular in this member. Okay. Now we jump into the implementation, which are the things to do to implement a Db2 profile. So I have listed here the 6 steps needed to activate a Db2 profile. So first, we have to insert rows in the profile table. Let me switch the laser pen. This is better. Then we have to insert rows in the profile attributes as well. Then we are ready to start our profile. We can start the profile manually using the start profile command, or we can decide to activate Db2 profile at the Db2 startup using this profile auto start zparm, set into yes. Once the profile is started, we can display the status of our profile with the display profile db2 command. And then once the profile is started, we can start to analyze the message that the profile sent out to db2 master address space. Then we can also check the status of our profile in the column of the history table, just to check whether the profile have been accepted or rejected for some reasons. Anyway, I want to show you all the steps, so we can start with step number 1, insert row in the profile table. So this is, again, the first thing to do is to insert a row in the profile table. We can just assign a number at the profile ID. Profile ID is the column color in red here. And then we can, for example, identify in this table our workload. For which workload we want to activate this db2 profile. So in this example, if we want to monitor connection, db2 connection, we can specify an IP address in the IP address column, in location column, sorry, or we can specify a domain name when we want to monitor connection. And in any case, we can filter our workload using one of the columns or more than one column, the combination of the columns colored in blue here. So we can filter our workload for authorization ID, plant name, collection, package name, and so on. So this is the profile table. The first step, insert a row in the profile table. Second, insert another row, but in the profile attributes table. So number 1, insert the same profile ID number that we inserted in the profile table before. And then number 2, select a keyword. What is it, a keyword? The keyword is the function or the action that db2 will perform. So we can select a db2 to monitor threads, monitor other threads, special register. We can choose among all these keywords specified here on the left. And then step number 3, specify an attribute, attribute 1. Attribute 1 specify how db2 will respond when a threshold for the keyword we selected is reached. So if we specify, for example, that we want to monitor threads, we can specify in the attribute 2 the trigger value, how many threads. After that, this profile will be triggered, but we will go in deep dive in the next slide to show you an example. But let me focus, before move to example, let me focus to the attribute 1 column, because this is the key of the profile. We are again in the DSN profile attributes table. We have select monitor connections keyword, and then attribute column 1, the value of this attribute is compound of 2 different values. Is a composite of the type of monitoring. We can decide to answer with a warning or an exception, and then we can select the different level of details we want to be specified in our output message. The diagnostic level 1 will be the lowest level of information we will have in the message. Diagnostic level 3, the maximum level of details. Okay, we can cover a lot of capability with db2 profile. And here I have listed all the capabilities we can cover. So we can monitor debug threads and connections. We can set subsystem parameters for SQL statements. We can set specific thresholds for query acceleration. We can evaluate dynamic SQL for acceleration for specific workloads, set values of special registers. again, set values of built-in global variables. And we can set subsystem properties for production, modeling, and test. So now we are going to cover all those capabilities with some example, and at the end we will see some notes regarding history tables. Okay, first one: how to monitor debug threads and connection. You know that before Profile was introduced, we had, and we still have today, only 3 parameters to control our debug connection. We have the con debug, the max debug, and the idle thread timeout join, idle thread timeout. So I think that, I suppose you know very well all those 3 commands that we normally use to tuning our remote connection. Important things when we want to monitor debug connections is that we need to guarantee enough free threads in our pool for core business application. But you know that the web application, for example, today sometimes have a lot of spikes during the day. So we have to guarantee enough free available threads on our Db2 pool. But one suggestion to guarantee enough free threads in our pool is to limit all the other applications that wants to connect to Db2. And I will show you how to do this with Db2 profile. But let's go in deep into remote connections. For example, what happens if we achieve the maximum con debug we have specified in our system? Here I'm showing you a display DDF detail of my environment, where I have my con debug set to 10,000. This is just an example because I want to explain to you what happens if we reach this number. You know very well because you are operation people. Application get back this message. So the next incoming threads that want a new connections will get back an error. This reason code, the maximum number of remote connection, which is set by subsystem con debug, was reached. What does it mean? For my business, does it mean a drop of transactions? And an outage of transaction means a lot of cost. You know that 1 minute of outages cost thousands of dollars for our business. So this is something that we can avoid. So the best things for a DBA should be to have a warning before reach this number, because we can have enough time to applicate the remediation before achieve 10,000 con debug. And with Db2 profile, so I want to show you the first exercise. With profile ID number 1, I want to have a warning when Db2 reach, for example, 9,000 connections before reach 10,000. So I have the time to take some decisions and do some actions. So how to implement a profile like this? So open your profile table. Here I'm using a BMC table editor, and I have inserted a row in the profile table. The profile ID is a number 1, just an example. I put here my virtual IP address of my Db2. Profile enable yes means that once we start this Db2 profile, the Db2 profile will start immediately. And in the profile attribute, you can insert the same profile ID number. The keyword is monitor connections. My action will be warning, and I want the maximum level of information in my diagnostic message. So my trigger value is 9,000. So what happened when I reach this number? I will have in my master address space a message. But first of all, once defined my profile, I need to start the profile. When you run the start profile command, you load the profile table. The profile table is a data structure in memory. If this table already exists at the next start profile, the new structure is created in replace. Once you start the profile, it's better to run a display profile just to check if this profile is on. This is the status of the profile. You have just started, then you have the timestamp, time of your activation, the activation time. Here you have counters that indicate how many times you trigger this profile. And when you reach the 9,000, you will see in the master of the space a message like this. Message the diagnostic level 3, sorry, the SNT 773, and here you have all the specification of the new incoming thread that will receive this warning. You can see here that this message comes from my profile ID number 1. So very easy to put a warning for our in our monitor connection, but we can also monitor debug threads. Debug threads are different from the con-debug threads because max debug is the maximum number of database access thread. What happened when we reach 200 in this case? The new incoming thread will be queued, and when thread become queued, that means for our SLA means degradation. The response time will increase, so we can't respect our service level agreement. So what I can do here with Db2 profile, for example, the secret here, I come back again, sorry. So the strategy here is for me to limit all the applications that are not core business application. So because 200 is valid for every application that wants to connect to Db2, my strategy here is to limit all the not core business application, to limit the maximum number of threads they can have from my Db2. So in this exercise, profile ID number 2, I want, for example, limit the remote connection for threads coming from Oracle SQL Developer, for example. That is one of the applications used by developers. So to realize a profile like that, you can insert in the profile table your profile ID. In this example, profile ID is number 2. My workload filter will be the client application name column. You can select among different columns you have in your profile table. So in this case, I select the client application name, where I specify my Oracle SQL Dev client application name. And then you can also insert in the profile attribute table the same profile ID number 2. Here the keyword is monitor threads. Before was monitor connection in the previous exercise. And now my action, my answer of Db2 will be exception in this case, not warning that was before. Now is exception diagnostic level 2, so medium level of information, and my trigger value is 20. So when I activate a profile like this, I will assign not more than 20 connections coming from Oracle SQL Developer. And this is a strategy to limit other not core business applications. What happened when Oracle SQL Developer reach the 20 trigger value? The next incoming thread will get back this message with this reason code, E3508. So Db2 was enabled to process the SQL statement because the number of concurrent active threads exceeded the exception threshold for the monitored threads. And in the master of the space, you will see this message. In this case, we trigger more than 200 times this value. This is my profile ID number 2 in action. And this is the scope of my profile. So very easy to limit not core business application using a profile ID. But talking again about remote connection, we can also monitor idle threads. So idle threads means that we have a thread that is waiting for an answer, but someone doesn't respond. For example, might be the network that doesn't respond, I/O, disk, channel, or Db2 as well, or Kix, or less. Storage doesn't respond. So for some reasons, the transaction can conclude. So the transaction remain in an idle status. Normally, to drop idle threads, we have in the zparm the idle thread timeout, and we can set a value, and this value is a global value. A global value is applied at a global transaction level. But imagine, so in the ordinary transactions, 30 seconds, for example, might be a good value. So, for example, if I have a transaction in an application A that doesn't have an answer after 30 seconds, I think that is correct, might be correct to drop that kind of transaction. But suppose, imagine a scenario where my transaction in application B needs to download a document that is stored, for example, in a virtual tape library. The tape library needs a quite amount of time to give back my document. So probably 30 seconds is too low. So for this specific application, I need more time than 30 seconds. So for me, 30 seconds is not an idle transaction in the case of the application B. So with Db2 profile, we can specify another thread timeout only for my specific workload. And in this case, my specific workload is the application B. So I can diversify an idle thread timeout at the global level and for a specific level. This is the exercise, profile ID number 5, to show you how to set a different idle thread timeout value. So in the profile table, I insert a row, profile ID number 5, and my workload filter is the authorization ID and the collection. And then the profile attributes, you have to insert the same profile ID number 5 again. The keyword here is monitor idle threads. Now the action is exception again, diagnostic level 1. And my trigger value is 300, will be 300 seconds. So in this case, I have a specific timeout time only for transaction coming from this authorization ID. And for all the rest application will remain the same, will remain valid the same idle thread timeout join that will remain 30 seconds at global level. So very easy. Just a few words about the messages that came out from the profile used to monitor connection. We will have at a minimum interval of 5 minutes message in the master address space coming from the monitor connection, the monitor thread, or idle thread timeout. we can have 3 different levels, as I said before, of my diagnostic level. So the third level contains maximum of detail we can have in the message. So you can analyze your master address space to collect statistics from the triggering of your Db2 profile, or you can prefer to extract statistics from SMF, because for every single Db2 profile event, we will have associated a record of class 4 with this EFC 402. So you can analyze then your statistics. Now we jump how to set a subsystem parameter for SQL statement. At the zparm level, we have 3 different parameters to influence the behavior of your SQL statement when they are analyzed for your SQL optimizer, for your DB2 optimizer. But normally, those parameters are applied at the global SQL statement level. For example, I want to talk to you about the start join, for example. If you activate start join in your DB2, this might be expensive for a CPU perspective. Start join can be activated without any problem, I guess, in a data warehouse environment, but on our LTP, so a Kix DB2 transaction-oriented environment, start join can be dangerous to activate it because it's very expensive. Because DB2 optimizer can apply start join improperly. So with using a Db2 profile, for example, I can activate start join only for a specific workload, for example, for a specific application. And this is the example, profile ID number 3. I want to activate my start join parameter only for workload coming from SAP applications. So profile table, plan name and collection ID are my workload filters. Profile ID number 3, some remarks, and so on. In the profile attributes, I insert the same profile ID number 3. The keyword is start join, and the value is enable. So I'm activating start join only for workload coming from SAP application. Very easy. How to set thresholds for query acceleration. What does it mean? Imagine this scenario. I have on the left 3 different applications with 3 different tables. For every one of those tables, I have also in the accelerator a shadow table defined. When if the accelerator is enabled and all the SQL is eligible for acceleration, all the queries that run in those tables are offloaded by default, regardless of the dimension of the table or the dimension of the result set that the accelerator get back, or the value of the estimating cost. So regardless of every kind of parameters, optimizer run my query in the accelerator. But with Db2 profile, I can decide to offload what I want. So for example, I can decide to offload only SQL statement on quite huge tables. But for very, very small table, I can decide to skip the offload. Let me show you with a profile ID how to do this. Profile ID number 4. So I want that only for SQL statement coming from QMF. So that's mean inquiry DB2 using QMF. I want that only SQL statement coming from QMF will be eligible and will be redirected to accelerator, but only for table involved in the query that has more than 1 million rows, for example. So the profile table, profile ID is number 4. My workload filter is the QMF plan name. In the profile attributes, profile ID number 4. Again, the keyword here is a cell table threshold, and my trigger value is number of rows, 1 million rows. So only for tables greater than 1 million rows coming from SQL, dynamic SQL statement coming from QMF will be accelerated on my IDAA. And this one is how to evaluate dynamic SQL for acceleration. So profile ID number 6, set current explain mode only for QMF query. So the current explain mode special register is this one. It's a special register, contains the values that control the explain behavior in regard to eligible dynamic SQL statement. So this facility generates and insert explain information into the explain table, but not only the explain table, but all the other tables that are part of the common explain feature, and causes explain information to be captured for any eligible dynamic SQL statement after the statement is prepared. So you can imagine if you, when you apply this feature, you ask to Db2 to populate for acceleration purpose all those tables for all the SQL dynamic statements. So it's very huge works to do. So with this Db2 profile, for example, we want to activate the feature of a current explained mode only for a dynamic SQL statement coming from, in this exercise, QMF. So I can select a specific dynamic workload. So this feature will be applied only on the workload I specified here with this profile ID number 6. So profile table, profile ID number 6, plan name, the QMF plan name, QMF version 12, and in the profile attribute, profile ID number 6, and the keyword is a cell name explain, and here in the attribute 1, we have just to explain the accelerator name of your accelerator. Set values for special register. With DB2 version 12, we have a lot of new special register. So today, I remember the list in version 10 was very less than this one anyway. Today, we have a lot of different special register to set. And with Db2 profile, we can change this setting dynamically. So for example, in this profile ID number 7, we can set the APPL compact using this profile ID only for a specific workload. So in the profile table, I've inserted here profile ID number 7. Some remarks. My workload identifier is the application name, client application name column. My value here is a SAS client. And then in the profile attribute, profile ID number 7 again, the keyword is special register. And this is the command to set my current application compatibility, special register with the version 10 value. So this is very useful if we want to apply your APPL compact for a specific workload. Because in this case, my SaaS application was probably an application very, very old. For example, I didn't have money to have the new release of this application. So I decided, for example, to continue to use my SaaS application with this APPL compact in my version 12 DB2. Then we can set also built-in global variables. This is the list of the main DB2 version 12 global variable. So we have different global variable, and we can change the value of the global variable using DB2 profile, as we did with the special register, more or less. So I want to show you an example how to change the move to archive global variable. If you don't know your current value of your built-in global variable, you can run a query like this. Example, inquiry, the IBM sysdummy one. You can just select using the name of your global variable as column names, and you can have a report like this, where you can see the current value of your global variable. In my case, I have here get archive to no, move archive to no, temporal logic transaction 0, and so on. Just to see your current value. Anyway, come back to an example. Imagine this scenario again. I have the same 3 applications, 1, 2, 3, and for every one of those applications, I have a table. And for every table, I have an archive table associated, and the archive is enabled. When the archive is enabled, that's archive table is enabled. That means that for a delete in the base table, a row in an archive enabled table will not result in storing a copy of the delete row in the, so normally when you delete a row here, you have DB2 automatically will insert this row in your archive table. But for some reasons, you might not to have the automatic insert for a specific condition, for a specific application, maybe application number 3 in this case. So without modify nothing, and nothing in application statement as well, you can realize this using a new DB2 profile. So profile ID number 8. We want to set this global variable sysIBM ADM dot move to archive equal to no for a specific application, and will be my application 3. So profile table, profile ID number 8, and my workload filter is the authorization ID and the plan name, and also the client application name as well. And in the profile attribute, I can specify the same profile ID number 8 and the keyword global variable. And here I specify the message, the command I want to run with my profile ID. Will be set sysIBM ADM.move to archive equal to no for my application 3. So in this case, my global variable is valid only for application 3. So the reason, the result is that I will not have automatic insert in the archive table for the application 3. How to set subsystem properties for production modeling on test. So with DB2 profile, I can have an help on that. In some shops, for some DB2 environment, someone might need to model this test environment as a production environment. So someone wants to simulate as much as possible an environment as a test environment as a production environment. So you can do this doing different things, okay. In this example, I want to show you how to start to change your test environment, closing as much as possible to production environment. Before talk about DB2 profile, you have first to change some ZPARM setting. For example, you have to change the simulated CPU speed and the simulated CPU count to because changing those values, the the DB2 optimizer will believe that you are in production instead you are in the test environment. So if you need to gather those values from the production, you can run a query into your production plan table, following the instruction below here. You will see in the varchar EBM service data column the simulated CPU speed and num of CPU count at this position. So this is the substring you can use to gather those values, and you can change your zparm. So now you can reflect your production machine in this way. And then with DB2 profile, you can change some other DB2 important setting, for example, how to change the read block, how to change the sort pool size, or changing the buffer pool size, reflecting your buffer pool size dimension. So when you will run the next test plane in this test environment, the optimizer will believe that you are in production more roughly. So in this example, I want to show you how to set a global profile. So this DB2 profile is a global profile, because you can see in the profile table, I've inserted only the profile ID number 99, but I didn't specify any workload. So that means that this profile will be applied at the global level. And in the profile attribute, you can insert a row for every single buffer pool you have in production. And here you can set the same page number you have in production. So, and when you activate this profile, the optimizer will consider that, defining a new explain. Okay, we cover all the things you can do activating DB2 profiles. Last things is that I want to remember to you that for every profile table and profile attribute table, we have a history table associated, and the history table contain all the profile and attributes that were in effect at some point in time. They are populated at the start profile command. So don't delete row from here, but only if you are for maintenance. So with a reorg discard, for example. History profile are very similar. This is the history profile of the profile table. The only difference is that instead of the remarks column, you have the status columns that indicate the status of the profile once they are started. If you check the status column of the profile table history, you can, as I said, the status of for every single profile you activated. So we can see the reason why profile have been rejected or accepted. And the same, okay, this is a report extracting some rows from the profile history. You can see on the left the profile ID number, activation time, and the status at the time, rejected, and the reason why, or accepted. Same for the attribute table, we have the similar history table. Again, instead of the remarks column, we have the status column. And again, the status column, we can have the reason why your DB2 profile has been rejected, or the history when your DB2 profile has been accepted, with for every attribute, with your profile ID, your keywords, your trigger value, and so on. So you have the history. Lastly, some notes regarding general rules. So when you start to use profile, your profile tables can become considerable in terms of number of rows. So remember that there are some rules to govern different DB2 profiles. So for example, profile are applied in segments 1, 2, 3, and so on. In case of conflict profile, so the same profile ID number, we'll consider the last defined in terms of time, activation time. If more than one profile specifies criteria from the same category for the same monitor function, only one profile is applied. When more than one profile specifies criteria from different categories for the same monitor function, Db2 applies all of the profile in combination, so will be applied in combination. Because the evaluation of multiple profile is not simultaneous. Imagine if you have a table with 100 of profile, the number of connection or threads on the subsystem might change during the evaluation of multiple profiles. But as usual, don't exaggerate in the definition of profile. As usual, is the common sense of a system programmer. If you modify existing started profiles, you must stop and start profiles again to apply the changes. For profiles that affect address path selection, you must invalidate the statement in the dynamic statement cache before changes to profile attributes values are applied for those statements. And then don't insert row into history table profile manually. Okay, Colin, I'm arrived at the end. So if you want to explain just the last two slides, talking about the GSA UK Become a Member initiative. Colin, or Marcus, sorry. Marcus, are you there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I just had difficulty getting mute.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you very much, Roberto. That was really interesting. I've missed that presentation a couple of times, so when I finally got to see it,
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad. I learned a lot. So thank you very much, everyone. This was 2AJ, so please give your feedback, fill in the forms, and don't forget to donate to our sponsored charities this year. Right, before we all go, do we have any questions? Colin says, when I tested this out a couple of years back, profiles felt a bit limited in their scope. It looks like it's grown, and I wonder if there'll be any additions to scope in the future and in Apollo.
Yeah, might be. Yeah, I don't know Apollo in such a details, but in any way, I heard some IBM presentation, and someone told in that presentation that Db2 profile can be something where IBM likes to invest, because this is something flexible that can help us to setting better our environment. So I think that we will have something new in the Apollo, or in the continuous delivery feature.
Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. Thank you very much, Roberto, and thanks everyone. That's it for the DB2 stream today. We shall resume tomorrow morning at 9 AM with Gareth Coppleston-Jones talking about Apple Compat, Null ID, and me. Please have a good evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.